What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of See You Sunday. Today, I'm stepping in for Rob as the host. He has some other things to do. I more think it had everything to do with the Commandos losing in an embarrassing fashion to the Chicago Bears. But, hey, if you got things to do around the house, and that's a cop-out to having to own the fact that everything that you said to make me emotional, as you can see, is my name for the day. Then when the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals, your loss was a lot worse, especially all that you dished out. You dished it and couldn't take it, but I still love you, Rob. But I got Chris LeBron in the building, president of the Off the Ball Network here, and I got Kenneth Cotterill, host of the Competitive Hedge podcast, putting out daily bets. Make sure you check out his bets. We're about to start the beginning game, so make sure you check out his bets. Tail them if you love it. Ken didn't take my lock or my pick of the week, but hey, it is what it is. So we're gonna get into the NFL slate. It's a great Saturday. We got some great college football games, by the way. Today, I think this is a great week for football. I think the NFL matchups are a little bit better. I think there's some big storylines, some games to watch, and we're gonna go over all of that. But we're going to talk about the biggest storyline for the week. Ken, I'm going to start with you. What is the biggest storyline of week 5 of the NFL?
I think the biggest storyline of the NFL this week are a couple teams who were playoff teams last year. Are their seasons coming to an end in week 5? I'm referencing the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're 1-3. Burrow does not look healthy. And now you play Arizona. Like, if you lose to Arizona this week, call it. Burrow should sit out the next however many weeks it takes for him to get back to 100%, maybe even shut him down, quite frankly, because I think once you get to 1-4 in the AFC, you're in major trouble, and I think that could be the end of their year. I think we could say the same about the Minnesota Vikings, who are playing the Kansas City Chiefs this week. I think they're going to get absolutely crushed, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that their season could be at an end. If you're 1-4, I think we start to hear the Kirk Cousins talk of should he be traded and should Minnesota just shut it down. So I think we've got a few of those teams that were good last year, but this year they just haven't had it out of the gate. And I think that those are the two that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, because I think that's a storyline to watch if both of them were to lose.
Yeah, and I think the conversation changes for both teams. Like you said, does Kirk Cousins end up getting traded? He's a free agent after this year. Ken, let me ask you, since you brought that up, right? There was a report saying Justin Jefferson was offered a max contract. It would have been a record-breaking contract. He would have been the highest paid wide receiver, deservingly so. Nobody thinks he shouldn't be. Nobody thinks he shouldn't get as much as you could pay a wide receiver. But it seems like he's kind of attaching himself to Kirk Cousins. And the report said that he's willing, if Kirk Cousins doesn't stay in Minnesota, he would like to follow Kirk Cousins wherever he goes. And there's a few teams that were mentioned in interest, the Commanders, the Falcons, and there were 2 other teams. There were 4 teams that have their eye on basically adding Kirk Cousins. And that adds an interest if that report is true and Justin Jefferson really is willing. If I'm the Commanders or I'm the Falcons, you're telling me if I get Kirk Cousins, I can also get Justin Jefferson and I have enough money to pay him. Do you think that plays an impact this week? Do you think that matters this week? Because like you said, you think their season is on the line. So do you think retaining Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson is on the line this week?
I think that it is, but I don't think that they're necessarily attached like they're saying that they are. Now, I think why Jefferson's saying this is he wants Kirk to stay. He wants Minnesota to give Kirk his money. And let's face it, Justin Jefferson's really smart for doing this, because by attaching himself to Kirk, you're putting some pressure on the organization to actually go out and re-sign him. And if you don't, he wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in football, but he also wants to have an opportunity to win, because you look at some of these really good wide receivers that are stuck in wastelands of organizations. I think about even a guy like DK Metcalf in Seattle. Geno Smith's fine, but imagine DK Metcalf if he has a great quarterback. I think about Terry McLaurin in Washington. He hasn't had a great quarterback for a number of years. And these are receivers that we know, if we all play fantasy football, if these guys were on teams with Justin Herbert or with Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, they'd be getting drafted in the second round very easily. And instead they slip a couple rounds because we know who's delivering them the football. So when I look at what they need to make a decision around Kirk right away, Jefferson, he's going to get his money regardless. Like, there's going to be an organization that says, hey, we'll give you like $35 million a year to come and catch like 1,800 yards of footballs and a dozen
100%.
touchdowns every year. So why hitch yourself to Minnesota? Because if Minnesota's not hitching themselves to Kirk, I couldn't tell you Minnesota's backup right now. I truly couldn't. I have no idea who backs up Kirk Cousins. It was Kellen Mond, I think, for a little bit, but he's no longer there.
Yeah, he's
gone.
He's been on 3 different teams in one summer since.
So I honestly don't know who it is. So if you're Jefferson, why the hell would you hitch yourself to Minnesota? It's not as if he says, you know what? Nope, I'm not signing. It's not as if a team's going to be like, oh, he's not signing there. Well, we don't want him a part of our organization. Like, he's.
Well, the thing is, the franchise tag is what screws up the possibility of, like, they could franchise tag him. And now you're like, if you're a team, unless you're on the cusp of winning a championship, like, you know, once you get franchise tag, what is it? Automatic 2 first-round picks that you have to give up to trade for a guy on the franchise tag. So now, like, at the end of the day, the wide receiver position is so deep. And then I'm even looking like, I think this year of Justin Jefferson trying to get paid is kind of rough, only because this wide receiver class coming in, and I don't know if none of these guys are going to be Justin Jefferson, right? But knowing that there's so much wide receiver talent in the draft, I could get a guy who probably is a first-round talent in the 3rd round just because you're not going to see 15 wide receivers go in the first round. You lose a little bit of leverage, especially when you're talking about Minnesota would easily franchise tag them, force them to have the player ask for a trade, and force the team to give up too many assets for a wide receiver. As great as Justin Jefferson is,
I think that Justin Jefferson is one of one in the league right now when we're talking elite wide receivers. And there's a couple reasons why. He's only 24 years old. When we're talking about some of those other wide receivers that he's competing against, like Tyreek Hill's 29. You're not giving up a ton for Tyreek Hill at 29 years old. You're not giving up a ton for Cooper Kupp. He's 30. You're not giving up a ton for Devontae Adams because he's up there in age as well. You're really looking at him and Jamar Chase would probably be the closest as far as age and talent goes. But I'd be willing to give up multiple picks if I'm in a situation where I feel like I have the quarterback in place. I don't have that top weapon that I need in the offense. I'd be willing to do that for a guy like Jefferson, but it's only because of how young he is, how great he's been in his couple of years in the league. And that's with Kirk Cousins. He's probably a little bit underrated as a quarterback because we love to make fun of him for primetime, but Kirk's been a really good QB for a long time. So I think that I'd be willing to give up assets to get a guy like that. If it has to be the perfect situation, you have the QB, you have the roster, but you need that elite weapon. But that's kind of where I'm at with Jefferson.
Yeah, I could see. I could very well. I already know a team, and we kind of throw them in there when any wide receiver is possibly available. But there was a team that would throw away multiple picks and money. It'd be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mahomes and
Give Mahomes Justin Jefferson, boy. Just write off another 3 Super Bowls. So, Chris, your biggest storyline for Week 5.
Offensive line play feels like it's getting worse and worse.
Just around the league?
Just around the league.
You watch Giants games every week?
Yeah, that's gotta be because
no, I get what he's saying. O-line play is not.
He just had to throw some shade though. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Quarterbacks are getting killed today.
Quarterbacks are getting demolished. It just feels. And listen, my team gave up 11 sacks this past week.
We just watched Khalil Mack have 6 sacks in a game.
In a game, and it used to feel like offensive linemen were always deemed the safe pick, right? Like, oh, you take this line, he's going to be a 10-year pro, all
10 to 15 easily. Like you take a lineman in the first round, you get 10 to 15 years out of them.
Even if they don't reach like their potential. Like I remember like Robert Gallery, like when he came out of Iowa, like back in 2004, like he didn't live up to like being the 4th pick, but he still had a 10-year career. It seems like that's not the case anymore. Like for instance, we have Evan Neal. Like
Evan Neal, I was about to say Evan Neal. Evan
Neal became a and I don't know if you guys listen, listen to any like sport like New York radio, but
you're gonna talk about the rant that dude went
Don
on.
LaGreca is a big time radio personality out here. And
I saw it. I did
He
see.
has he's known for legendary rants, but this one's maybe they might have been the one. And I listened to it live at work, and I was dying. But you see how he is, and he was supposed to be a safe pick, right? He was a top 10 pick, Alabama, right? So you're like Alabama product, and they've had some guys that have missed, but like you're like he should be a good pro.
Not many on
He's
the
a
offensive
turnstile.
line, though. Like the guys that produce on the offensive line have panned out and had, like you said, those 10 to 12 to 15-year careers. At worst case scenario, they've been pretty good. Might not be a Hall of Fame guy, but they've been pretty good. Sustainable, stay with a team, maybe sign later on in their career somewhere else. Feasible, always could start. We could depend on him to not get our quarterback murdered.
Killed. And it's just like, it just feels like around the league, the Bengals have had some bad O-line play. You know, we just saw Khalil Mack had 6 sacks, you know, and, you know, he had a career game.
He might win the sack. Like, he might have the most sacks in the NFL just because of one game. Already boost him ahead of, like, everybody.
Everybody.
Like, one game, which is crazy. Like, and we saw that. Was it last year or was it? I think it was last year with Chandler Jones when he had 4 sacks in week 1 for the Cardinals. Wasn't it last year?
Might have been.
Or was it 2 years ago? Because I don't remember whether
he did it to the Titans. He did.
Yeah, time flies, but it was week 1, and he comes out right out the gate, 4 sacks, and you're like, we already know how good this dude is. You start out the season with 4 sacks, like you're way ahead of everybody as far as trying to get the sack, not record, but lead the league in sacks. Like, so it does seem like offensive line play.
The Jets offensive line is strong, and that was before even Aaron got hurt. That was a big. I mean, if we watch Hard Knocks, we saw the struggles of their line and and all that. But it just seems, I don't know if it's a matter of the systems that we're running now, the different types of systems we're running. A lot of RPOs now, a lot of college style offenses now, and it's just not like how it was before, the true pro style offenses. And is it bad coaching? Or are we not? Because it seemed, I always felt like offensive line's the one coaching position where I need an offensive lineman to coach me. I don't need some 5'8", 120-pound guy to coach offense. I need someone who's that. Remember the Browns guy, the Browns coach on Hard Knocks with the stomach. I need someone like that.
Yeah, like I need a big guy who knows how to be
big dude to teach me. And it's just like, I don't know, coach. Maybe coaching is fall. I read a few articles. That's why I brought it up. And it just seems like, each year the offensive line is getting worse, and like the guys coming out of college aren't technically sound as they used to be coming out of college. So that to me is what I see, bad offensive line play. And it feels like, I know quarterback's been getting blamed. I know my quarterback especially gets a lot of blame, but if you've seen, I mean, just simple 2-step, 3-step drops, and he can't do nothing. He can't do nothing.
Chris, do you think that it also could be that you're talking about the systems that teams are running? Do you think part of it could be as well that before, if you had a bad QB, you could kind of get away with it because you would run the ball a lot and like you could just kind of design it, whereas everyone now wants it to be your QB throws for 300 and 3 TDs on Sunday, but those QBs just don't have that ability. Like you think about the teams with bad O-lines right now, like Sam Howell's probably the best out of the ones that I'll mention, but like him, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones hasn't been great out of the gate either. Like there's these teams that have limitations at QB, but they're trying to run offenses around arm talent when maybe they don't necessarily have it. And because of that, you take a lot of bad sacks because these guys just aren't prepared to step up in the pocket and like fit that throw in 20 yards downfield that these coaches are wanting them to do. Like you look at the Giants, they've got Darren Waller and he's not being used. And it could be that Daniel Jones is just not willing to make that throw 20 yards down the field, trying to fit it into a window to him, just like Zach Wilson's not willing to do, just like Sam Howell's not willing to do. And when they don't do that, then these teams are just sending 4 guys and getting home all the time because they're hanging onto the ball for 5 seconds. And that's just kind of what I've noticed from these bad teams with QB limitations.
And it just feels like, when you're getting hit a lot, and especially when you have quarterbacks, younger quarterbacks, and you're getting hit a lot, you just have that, the minute you drop back, you have to move. Like you can't sit in the pocket. Because listen, we know that the new age of quarterbacks, a lot of these guys are more athletic than ever, and all that, and you want them to move a little bit, but at the end of the day, to win football games, you got to be able to stay in the pocket and be able to make all your throws and make all your reads from the pocket still. That's always going to be the case. But with the way offensive line plays, is offensive play calling seems like it's a little suspect nowadays. And guys just not processing things as quick as they used to. It's so much going on. It just feels like, guys are just, the minute something happens, the minute the pocket even collapses a little bit, guys are on the move. Like, that's how Daniel Jones is. Like, everything is out of the pocket and all that. And even that game, 11 sacks, like half of them were probably his fault because he just held on to but I see the other side is like, well, yeah, because I'm getting hit every play, I have to move. So just like that your mindset is just telling you, just go, just move around, because you're going to get hit right away, because my right tackle can't block anybody. My left tackle's on the sidelines because he's not playing. Our guards are terrible, so I'm getting pressure everywhere. My center's out. My guards shouldn't even be in the NFL because our guards are putrid. My best blocking back is out. And my best weapon, I can't get the ball to my best weapon because everybody knows he's the best weapon. So he's getting double teamed. And even if I have single cover, I don't have time to throw him the ball and just make him make plays. Let him be the playmaker he's supposed to be. That's why they brought him in. So it just feels like, especially with the Giants, just bad coaching. And I'm a big Dayball guy, and I still believe in him, but that to me is coaching, and it's throughout the whole staff and all that. And it just feels like, especially like going back to offensive line, it's just been all bad. So,
and I got annoyed with Dayball on Monday night because we know that Daniel Jones, when he threw that pick six, like, that was a complete miss. Like, guys open in the back corner of the end zone. Daniel Jones has to make that throw. They're probably still in the game if he makes that throw. And then Dayball goes over. Dayball basically goes over to him, throws the iPad at him as if it's like, this whole game is your fault. And if I'm Daniel Jones, I'm like, look, I missed that throw, but like, I'm getting pressured every single snap. Like, what are we doing as a team to put me in a position to actually get the ball out?
And for Dayball, he hasn't. Listen, New York is he went from being the king of New York, the king of New York for 1 year.
You guys are ready to give him Brian Dayball.
And then when things go bad, certain guys don't know how to handle that. And in New York, it's intensified. It's to like the 10th degree, and he's feeling it. I can tell he's feeling it. This reminds me of when we had Ben McAdoo. Same thing. The success the previous year playoff, and I thought we had a way better team going into this year than the lat team. And then McAdoo was fired midway through the season. Like, he didn't even last a year or two, and he won 11 games the previous year. I don't think that's going to happen with Dayball, but he's feeling it. He's feeling the pressure. And in New York, you can go from he was the king last year. Him and Joe Shane, everybody loved him. Now this year is like, oh, Joe Shane drafted two bums. Thibodeau. Even though Thibodeau had a solid game last week, but Thibodeau has been underwhelming so far, and Nevin Neal has been a bust. So, like, it's like, oh my God, we actually praised them probably a little too quick because we've been bad for a long time, and it's like, oh wow, we're getting out coached, we're getting out hustled, and that's not acceptable. It's one thing if we were 1-3, but we're in every game and we're not getting blown off the field in the first half of every game. We could live with that. But the fact that it's looked like we're getting out coached and all that is bad. Not to get off the rails, but I know we did. But it's just all around bad.
So I'm gonna just be honest. I'm staying fairly home for this CU Sunday because there's a few games to watch, biggest storylines that are very near and dear to my heart. So I'll say the biggest storyline for me is that there are two teams that are playing against each other on Sunday night. One is in a win-win situation. The other is in a lose-lose situation. I think San Francisco, win or lose, nobody looks at San Francisco any different. Hey, they're still king of the East. Even if they got just hypothetically, if Dallas blew them out, nobody's going to look at San Francisco any different. And I think Dallas is in a lose-lose situation because if they lose this game, we all know the media is going to wake up. They're frauds. They're not that good. They might be able to beat anybody else outside of San Francisco. And we know the storyline. It's been the past 2 years. We feel like they could beat anybody. Their kryptonite has been San Francisco. But my biggest fear is if they win, they're going to be crowned king. They're going to be deemed on top of the NFC. They're going to get all this hype, and everybody's going to do it because they know for the past 20 plus years, it's been you will disappoint at some point in time. And so I just think that's a big storyline because you're in a lose-lose situation if you're Dallas. If you win this game, the expectations rise and you have no room for hiccups without getting criticized. If you lose this game, you're going to get criticized because you beat the Patriots, the Jets, and the Giants, and you've lost to the Cardinals, which was, okay, a hiccup happens. It's the NFL at the end of the day. But then losing to the king, losing to the guys that are crowned the best team in the NFC, arguably the best team in the NFL right now, probably the best team in the NFL right now through the first month of football going into week 5. So I think that's a big storyline because I think both teams are on one side of the fence. San Francisco's a win-win situation. Doesn't matter. Win or lose this game, we won't be viewed any different. Dallas is in a lose-lose situation because you're going to be viewed different and held to a different standard, win or lose this game. And I think winning this game, I honestly think winning this game for Dallas could be a little more detrimental than losing this game because if they lose, they are who we thought they were. They're better than 95% of the NFC, but there's those 1 or 2 teams that we don't see them beating. Hey, we can live with that. We can go 13-4. Maybe win the division or maybe have to play in the wild card and play a team like Minnesota or Atlanta or something like that. And we know they could win that game. And then the inevitable is going to happen. They're going to have to face Philly and San Francisco. Going into that week, we know what the questions will be. But if they win this game, they're going to be crowned king. They're going to be talked about because I think if they win this game, all the star players are going to play like stars. I think Michael Parsons is going to play absolutely incredible. I think Dak would play incredible. I think CeeDee Lamb would have a good game. I think Stephon Gilmore in that secondary will have a good game. I think it's going to take a almost perfect effort for Dallas to win this. But if they show you how good they are when they play perfect, that's going to be the expectation moving forward. And so there are no room for hiccups, even though we know like in the NFC East, any game is a tough battle because it's a divisional matchup, and we know that in the NFL. But like you can't hiccup against the Commanders. You can't hiccup against the Giants next time you play them. You got to split at least 1-1 with Philly. You at least got to win home and maybe lose on the road. Like all those expectations of what the rest of your season looks like. So I think that's my biggest storyline is just really 2 of the best teams, 2 of the 3 best teams in NFC going at it, and one's on one side lose-lose situation, the other's on the other side win-win situation. So I'd like to see how they respond. I think
with this game, I mean, this is very clearly the game of the week. It's going to be probably the best football game of the week. The only thing that, like, as long as Dallas doesn't get blown out, to me, this game doesn't mean much. Like, it's a good barometer test of, like, okay, where are we at beginning of October? Like, we're not going to see San Francisco until January, potentially, in a playoff matchup. So just see where you're at. Like, we know that Diggs went down. They haven't played anybody yet. So how do you stack up against San Fran? But so long as you don't get blown out, I think that Dallas is fine. I think that San Francisco is fine. Like, just make it a competitive game. And at the end of the day,
just from a national standpoint, like the national media standpoint, Dallas can't
they're
lose
going to
this
kill us regardless. Like,
right.
Do I really give a crap if I wake up on Monday morning and Stephen A. Smith's clowning them for losing 24-21? No, because guess what? That's what they would be at from a betting perspective, at least. I think they're plus 3.5 for this game. So they covered. They didn't win, but Dallas looks pretty good against one of the best teams in the NFC, best teams in the NFL. So it doesn't really have a lot of bearing for me. I'm going to watch. I'm hopeful that we win. If we lose, so long as we don't get blown out, then I'm going to be fine with it.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm not. It's just from the national media perspective, but as long at the end of the day, when 2 really good teams play each other, somebody got to win and somebody got to lose. Like at the end of the day, you could end it a tie. Like you could.
Do you think because the 49ers they're not mattering whether they win or lose is because they have Brock Purdy at quarterback, and that's going to be the excuse if they lose games and the reason. But they'll hype it up if they win it. So do you think that's a fair way to view them because their quarterback makes less than $1 million, like they say every week, and he's the 7th round Mr. Irrelevant, that if they lose, they have a 7th round quarterback, what do you expect? Do you think that's why there's no pressure and there's more pressure on the Cowboys because Dak's making 40+ million a year, the Cowboys? which
No.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think that's a fair. Like if the 49ers get punked, we can't use the excuse, well, they have Brock Purdy. No, you guys got punked. You guys are 4-0. You guys are viewed as the best team in the NFC. If you guys get punked by the Cowboys, then you guys punked by the Cowboys, and we need to evaluate that at a fair evaluation. Like, you just can't beat because you
There's
got
only
Brock
one
Purdy.
player that's going to get criticized if San Francisco loses, and it's going to be Purdy. No one else on that team is going to get criticized. Everyone loves CMC. They love Kittle. They love Debo. They love the defense. Everything that we've criticized San Fran about over the last, let's face it, 3 years has been quarterback play. It was Jimmy G, it was Trey Lance, and now it's Brock Purdy. And if you don't show up on Sunday and play well, then that's going to be the question. Well, is San Francisco limited? Like, they're a good team, but they got Brock Purdy at QB, and he can't make those throws, so he may not be the guy. That's going to be the narrative if Dallas wins. If San Francisco wins, people might start to turn the corner a little bit on Brock Purdy, depending on how he plays in this game, because he's been good through the first 4 weeks. We know that San Francisco has not had a tough schedule out of the gate, so... But if he goes in and he throws for 250, 3 touchdowns on the Dallas defense that everyone's been crowning as being a top 5 defense in the league, then that narrative's going to start to change, because they're going to say, wow, he played really well against a great defense. So I think that's going to be the only pressure or criticism that comes out of the San Fran side.
Yeah, I just think with Dallas, it's also if they lose, it's like the narrative of they don't win the big games. They beat up on everybody that they're better than, but when they face a team that's equivalent or slightly better, they don't win those games. I just think that's where it comes from. But I want to move on to game to watch, because college football's on and Ohio State is about to play. So I'm not spending an hour and a half with you guys as opposed to watching my Buckeyes beat up on Maryland since they think they have a chance because they're undefeated. But Chris, I want to start with you, the game to watch. As always, we kind of move away from our teams when we talk about the game to watch, because we all know we're going to watch.
Not ready to watch the Giants play the Dolphins. And
well, yeah, but we all know like our game to watch individually is our team. So your game to watch outside of your Giants is,
I mean, obviously San Fran and Dallas is definitely Sunday night. That's a big time game.
I mean, the world's going to be watching that game, ready to wake up and talk one way or the other.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good. That's definitely one I'm gonna be watching. I mean, Pittsburgh, Baltimore is always fun, but I'll go chalk with the game. 49ers, Cowboys. I think for the Cowboys this is a big game because obviously they did what they did against the Patriots. They took care of business last week, so this is their biggest test so far in this young season. So how they come out against the 49ers, who have looked like world beaters so far. They haven't played many good teams either. So, but how Dallas comes out looking, against San Fran, how they make Brock Purdy look uncomfortable, because he has not looked uncomfortable yet. But like I said, hasn't played anyone of significance. We know the Giants can't rush anyone. So that a few weeks back he looked like he was Joe Montana. But yeah, that game I'm definitely looking forward to. That's going to be, it should be a physical game. You got Cowboys offensive line. We thought maybe I thought that they were a little long in the tooth, but they've looked, they've definitely upholding all that against that 49ers front seven, which is very good. They got a lot of good, and how the Dallas contains, how they contain CMC, because he's just been going crazy, so that to me is going to be a fun matchup, seeing those the two best teams arguably in the NFC going at it. And 49ers, how Brock Purdy looks if there's under duress, because he got that, number 10 under 10 is, he got that bad man Micah on the other side.
Number 11
10. Oh, I'm thinking about Eli Manning, that's why. That's going to be a fun, how Brock handles the pressure of Micah, because he's going to be trying to get him, and making him comfortable. So looking forward to that. And then their receivers are banged up. Debo's banged up. Ayuk just came back last week. He's banged up. Kittle doesn't look like Kittle anymore to me. He's kind of slowed down. So, what happens when, I know Dallas is missing, their best corner and all that. Diggs is out for the season, but to see how they handle, all that, it's going to be a good matchup. Look forward to it.
Ken, what's your game to watch?
I can't believe that I'm saying these two teams, because if this was the start of the season and I saw Houston Texans playing the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, you took my game to watch.
I would have
The
thought
best Ohio State quarterback ever to play
You
pro
feel
football.
me? Like,
so. Here's the thing. Walker Bailey and I have been driving the Atlanta Falcons are winning the NFC South from the start of the year. It's still in the cards. Like, let's face it, the Houston Texans can win the AFC South. Like, these divisions
They really can.
are bad. And knowing now that Houston has drafted as well as they have, because you look at Tank Dell, you look at CJ Stroud, Nico Collins looks really good. Like, this is a fun offense to watch in Houston, which is crazy because on paper, I think even when I did my AFC South preview, I was like, the Texans are going to be awful on offense. Like, their best weapon is Nico Collins, and he's turned out to be like top 10 receiver out of the gate this year.
if you had him on your fantasy team, he's probably saved you a couple wins up to this point.
He's 100% just been great for them. And so, and then there's the Falcons, where Desmond Ridder looks like it's tough to call him the worst QB in football because there's a lot of really bad QBs in football right now.
Looks like dog poop.
But he looks bad. And so how's Bijan going to look against the Texans? They don't have the greatest defense in the world. We know that. So I think he could have a monster day. I think that if Ridder can make some throws, maybe to Kyle Pitts, maybe to Drake London, we could have a low-key shootout in this game that people probably aren't thinking is going to be a shootout, because when you look at where the betting line is at with this game, it's 41.5. Like, that's a very low total in the NFL for CJ Stroud, who keeps throwing for 300 yards, and the Falcons at home with the rushing attack that they have. So I think that this is a fun one. I think whoever loses this game probably won't go on and win their division. I think if you win your game, though, and you sit at 3-2, then you got to be thrilled. Both of these teams have to be thrilled if they're 3-2 through 5 weeks.
Shout out to D'Amico Ryans, man, because he's a buddy. He's a star.
Shout out to him for already being 2-2 and probably exceeding any expectations through the first month. I'm gonna go with my game to watch.
We got to give a shout out to the other coach, Arthur Smith, best mustache in the game.
He looks like a Big Cat. Every time I see him, he looks like Big Cat from Barstool.
He does. He is Arthur Big Cat.
Probably his uncle. But yeah, I'm gonna go. My game to watch is the same as Ken's. I told you I'm like staying home as far as for this CU Sunday, and it's because, bro, I want to continue to witness the greatest Ohio State quarterback to ever come out of Ohio State, and we are saying that 4 games in. CJ Stroud has been absolutely amazing, and I think he's exceeded expectations up to this point. I think he's a lot better than people thought. And I think what you saw is, I think as an Ohio State fan, you're a little disappointed because you're like, if he had all this in him, I think our team could have, we had a damn good team with him, but you're like, I think we could have been great. But it seems like Ryan Day. But anyway, that's besides the point. I want to continue to watch CJ Stroud in this offense. They're very exciting to watch. Like, Ken hit all the points. They got Tank Dell. They got Nico Collins, which is crazy. That a CJ Stroud to Nico Collins is a solid, quarterback to wide receiver duo. And that's an Ohio State quarterback and a Michigan wide receiver. Like, and they've clicked on all cylinders. They're sitting there. The Texans are sitting there at 2-2. And if they win this game, like, now you're thinking about the possibility of, okay, the Titans and Colts are 2-2 and they play each other. And we're going to talk about the game in a second. The Jaguars very well could go to 2-3 and lose to the Bills. And you're talking about, like, the Texans could be tied for first in their division through 5 games. And, like Chris says, it's still a lot of football left, but just sitting there through 5 weeks and possibly having the possibility of being 3-2 and tied for first is something that you didn't see was possible for the Texans. So I can't wait. I can't wait to watch that game. And I'm going to be watching CJ Stroud, especially since the Cowboys don't play till Sunday night. I get to focus on whatever players I want to watch throughout the day. And CJ Stroud is definitely going to be one of them. That game is going to get the main. That's going to get the main.
To his OC, Bobby Slowick, because he came from the 49ers and Shanahan, and he's a, he's been really good with quarterbacks, and it seems like they're a match made in heaven together. And to me,
he believes in CJ Stroud too, which is, I think at the end of this season, I think we could have a very different conversation about last year's draft, but we'll wait and let it play out through the season.
Are like,
yeah, there's some.
We took the vanilla midget.
We'll have to let it play. Yeah, we'll have to let it play out because it's still, you don't judge off of year one.
I'm judging. They made the wrong move.
As Rob does at all times, he always does a divisional matchup of the week. I could have went Baltimore and Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh has just been so bad. I don't want to talk about them. So the Titans versus the Colts. This is a game to be tied for first place, like we talked about. The winner of this game will be tied for first place, regardless of the outcome of the Texans and Jaguars, or they could have the stronghold of first place because one of these teams will be 3-2. The Jags could win and they'll be 3-2. The Texans could win. Either way, they'll be tied for first place. So I don't want to touch on this game too much, but at the same time, we got to follow Rob and do the division rivalry of the week. Titans, Colts, any expectations, Ken, real quick?
I actually think this is going to be a really good game. There's been a lot of line movement. It opened as the Colts were -1. It's now all the way up to Titans are -2.5 on the road, which is pretty crazy line movement. Looks like Richardson's going. Looks like Tannehill's going. I would pick Tennessee, but it's strictly because the Titans have kind of owned the Colts over the last couple of years, and I just don't know if that's going to change in this one. I like Vrabel a lot as a coach, and I think that I still think that Tennessee's the second best team in this division. So I would take Colts if I was Titans if I was picking anything.
All right, Chris, any thoughts on this game?
Which Titans team or do we see? Do we see the team that looks like they could beat any team in the league, or do we see the team that looks like they could lose to any team in the league? It's like no in between. It's like 1 week they look like, oh, all right, this is the old Titans team. Then it's like, oh, all right, this is the old Titans team. It's just crazy how they are. We got Colts are getting Jonathan Taylor back. We'll see how, we know he doesn't want to be there, but he is supposed to be active. And
he said he's gonna thug it for the rest of the season, though. He said he'll finish the season.
So we'll see how that helps AR and all that, having a legit run game. I don't know how many carries he's gonna get. I don't know how in shape he is and all that, but I'm sure he'll get some touches and all that. So that's gonna be interesting to see.
Does a Jonathan Taylor 100-yard game change the fact of him staying with the Colts for the rest of the season? Like, does that now emphasize? Maybe I'm wrong word. Anyway, does it get a team to be like, I'm trading for Jonathan Taylor? Like,
no got that JUCO education.
Yeah, I'm like, emphasize. That's not the word I'm looking for, but
Mo, I respect the effort to try and put out just like an elite word there.
Trying to get that Stephen A. Smith word.
Does it incentivize a team to trade for Jonathan Taylor? That's
there
the word.
You go. Incentivize.
I think it even if he does go for 100, I still think teams trying to trade for a running back is still iffy. Just how running backs are just used nowadays. Like, I don't know if he's like the impact like a CMC was for the 49ers. Like, is he that dynamic, in the passing game? Maybe if he was more dynamic in the passing game, I could see maybe some team trying to go for him. But, I don't know. It's good. I really don't know if even if he has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, if that helps. I think if you're the coach, you're like, we need to keep you because we need a quarterback. We need for you a quarterback. We need to have that balance. We just can't rely on him. It's not like they're flinging it with AR, and you want to be able to keep him, balanced. So I don't know. That's something we got to see. But the trade deadlines, I mean, it's already week 5, which is kind of crazy. So the deadline's what, week 8, week 7 in the NFL. Yeah. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see. But for him, he needs to ball out because he wants to get paid from someone, so he needs to so I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know if this is going to help his trade. Someone would be like, yeah, we should trade for Jonathan Taylor and all, because we thought maybe the Dolphins were a team, but they got their, Jeff Wilson's coming back for them. They got that rookie who's balling out. They got Mostert, who's serviceable, so I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see how his situation pans out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really think too much of this game. I think, it is a division rivalry. We could see a really good Colts team. We could see a really good Titans team, or we could see a bad version of both, and this could turn out to just be a bad game. So real quick, we'll go to our lock of the week and then upset of the week, and then we will close out. So, Ken, starting with you, lock of the week.
Oh, God, lock of the week.
Yeah.
So we made the rule last week that it can't be a double-digit favorite, so it can't be Miami over the Giants. Which, by the way, that's the only double-digit spread this week. So I'm sorry, Chris. I do feel bad for you there.
A lot of football left, Ken. A lot of football left.
I forgot there is a lot of football left.
There is
but
a lot of football left.
I have the Detroit Lions at -9.5. About as close as it gets to a double-digit favorite.
Play it safe, bro. We're playing to win. We're playing to win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions. I really thought about Kansas City, but I hate a road team. Like in Minnesota's offense, they can score a ton, so I get a little bit worried about that one. It could be a little bit of a sneaky one for Kansas City, who's had a pretty easy road the past couple of weeks. So I'm going to take the Lions at -9.5. I think that Carolina's dead, so give me the Lions.
So, Chris, your lock of the week.
My lock is crazy. I had the Bears lock of the week. I felt good, and then they were up big last week. Not this game that against the Commandos, but the week 4, and I'm feeling good. I'm like, I even posted lock. What a great pick. And then as there was a lot of football left in that game, and the Broncos, they won that game. So but my lock, I haven't been doing good with any of my picks. But my lock of the week is going to be, I'm going to go with, I'm going with the Texans. Lock it up.
Wow.
You're trying to lose points. That's the second week in a row you've made your lock the underdog. You trying to lose.
I'm team CJ Stroud until he throws 3 picks.
Rob's been keeping track. Rob has been keeping track of it. So we're gonna
take chances. I feel good about the Texans this week, even though it's on the road, because the Falcons, they stink. So I'm gonna go with the Texans as my lock, and my upset.
Hold on. Oh yeah, wait. Let me pick my lock.
Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah. Well, so my lock of the week, I'm going with Baltimore. I think Baltimore beats Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh stinks. I don't care that it's on the road.
Well, Jonathan Taylor just signed a 3-year contract.
Well, and Matt Canada, who knows? I mean, his burner account got leaked, so like they're in shambles.
Jonathan Taylor, 3 years, $42 million, $26 million guaranteed. So he is a cult for at least 2 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, can we give some like advice to coaches that look, if you're gonna go and defend your honor on Twitter, don't use your Pittsburgh Steelers email account to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid.
You need a burner email. Like you got to cover your bases here, because the fact that someone could just go forget password and see that it was from Matt Canada's email.
Matt Canada's not a favorite right now in Pittsburgh.
You're asking to get fired, because if they're bad on offense this week, I think Matt Canada gets fired.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Baltimore, and then I'm gonna start with my upset of the week. I'm going to take Jacksonville beating Buffalo. And I'm going to say this. I don't think Jacksonville is better than Buffalo. Jacksonville has been staying in London for the past 2 weeks. Buffalo traveling over there, time change and all that could change a lot of things. Jacksonville played there last week. Will stay there this week. They're essentially the home team, because that's who the NFL has presented to London, has been the Jaguars. So I'm going to take my upset of the week is going to be Jacksonville over Buffalo. I think they have the edge for basically being in London the past 2 weeks and not having to adjust the way Buffalo will this past week. Chris, what's your upset of the week?
The Jets. The Jets beat the Broncos.
God, that is
Zachy.
Like, that's not bad. Like, the fact that, oh my God, that game is terrible.
It's a terrible game, but I think Zach has a good game. I think the defense shows up, and then I don't know. I just want the Broncos to lose because of what what's his face said about all the and this is the revenge game for what's his face. Who's their OC again? Why is it forgetting? Who's the OC for the Jets?
Nathaniel
Hackett Bowl. He's gonna have a revenge game, and after getting fired, not even he didn't get to finish his first full season. So I think the Jets pull off the, if you want to call it an upset. It's what, 3.5, 2.5. Yeah. So
yeah. Ken, what's your upset of the week?
They're only +1, but the Saints over New England.
All right.
No Matthew Judon.
Does that count?
Yeah, they're +1.
You suck.
They're +1.
How?
I mean, I'm not watching this game at all, but
this might be the grossest game of the week.
Matthew Judon is out, like long term for New England. So I don't think that defense is going to be very good. It's a questionable one to take too, because Derek Carr is questionable for this game. So I'm then putting my faith in famous Jameis or Taysom Hill to get me a win, but that's going to be my upset.
Tom Brady's not playing either. He's out.
Damn it. That would have been huge for them if he was.
They're already talking about Belichick leaving to go to a different team. It's over for Belichick.
And it makes me mad too, because Colts were +1 and I really liked the Titans, but now that it's shifted, I couldn't take that as my upset. So that's tough.
Well, there you have it. There's our upset picks of the week, our locks of the week, and we will be closing out See You Sunday. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate everybody for listening. I'm Mo. That's Ken. That's Chris. And we will holler at you on Monday for Overreaction Monday. It will be happening, even if I have to host and piss Ken off for my presentation of how, my layouts are. But we will see y'all on Monday to overreact to what this Sunday will look like. Peace.